Hey freaks, it's JJ. Welcome to my channel. If you're new here, I talk about rock and metal music, and one of my favorite things is to talk about bands and like their concepts. So I feel like I haven't talked about Ice Nine Kills enough on this channel, mostly because I spend a lot of time just going over and discussing, summarizing the story behind a lot of concept albums. But Ice Nine Kills is, their concept albums are ones that like need no explanation, so I haven't had really much cause to talk about them much on this channel, but I'm really excited because they have just released their first graphic novel, and I read it and I really enjoyed it, so this gives me an excuse to talk about Ice Nine Kills, and I'm going to do a little bit more than just talking about the storyline. I just kind of want to talk about the band because it's just a band that I like, and I'm excited to see them on their newest tour. So this will be kind of like half review, half just me chatting about random thoughts about the band and everything like that. And if you're a psycho and a fan of Ice Nine Kills, then make sure you hit subscribe and let me know down in the comments that you want me to talk about them more. Anyway, let's jump right in. Okay, so first of all, just a quick like story summary. This graphic novel is it goes along with the concept of the band and the whole storyline that they've had going on with Spencer basically being this killer and you know, having him murder his fiance in kind of each one of their music videos, and so it sticks with that theme and that narrative that they've had going for their newest album, Welcome to Horror Woods. It's not as much like just like an anthology of like their music videos, because they've already had that storyline come out, so I was a little bit hesitant when getting this. I was like, oh, is it just going to be a graphic novel of like their songs and their music videos, which is something that we've already experienced through their videos, but it is in fact not. So it's has to do a lot about this idea of the band being on trial for murder, basically, and what that does to their fans. So the story follows this high school girl named Heather. She's like a super fan of Ice Nine Kills, and you know, when it is revealed that Spencer is, you know, on trial for the brutal murder of his fiance, Heather decides that she is convinced that Spencer is innocent, and so she kind of leads the fan force of supporting Spencer in this trial. Meanwhile, her mother is an investigator on the trial. So it's this interesting dynamic, mother-daughter dynamic, which is really cool because you can see both sides of it. Of course, you know, when you're a super fan of something, you want to believe that your idols are like untouchable, perfect human beings and they could never possibly do anything wrong. And then from the flip side of it, we of course have her mother who's just trying to protect her daughter, and there's, you know, all this glaring evidence that Spencer is in fact a murderer. And so Heather ends up leading all these oddly psycho fans and kind of being like the forefront leader on social media. And so it ends up she gets locked into her high school with a bunch of other Ice Nine Kills fans, and they have to escape this murderer who's going around killing them one by one. So it's definitely like a slasher, like your traditional like slasher storyline, and so, you know, Heather has to like figure out kind of like who this killer is, and of course there's all these red herrings where, you know, like they want you to believe it's this person but it's actually this person. I don't really want to give away the ending in case you guys want to read it, so I'm kind of gonna stop my story summary there, but basically, yeah, it's definitely has all like the cliches of the typical like horror genre, but like that didn't keep me from enjoying it at all. Like that's one of the things that's great in the horror genre, is it can be very self-aware when it comes to the cliches that have been done so many times in these slasher movies, and kind of subverting expectations and or delivering on those expectations to give the audience the most fulfilling experience. And so this graphic novel definitely assumes that you are within the horror community and that you have a general understanding of like the horror genre, and so therefore it's more exciting when you see all these horror, I hate to call them cliches, even though they're cliches, but like to deliver on these horror expectations that are really exciting, and just kind of staples of the horror genre. I need to stop talking with my hands so much because this video is unfocusing. I'm gonna hold the cup and try not to talk with my hands. Okay. So storyline-wise, I enjoyed the storyline. It is a little bit it's nothing profound, of course. It's nothing, none of that like elevated horror type stuff that we're seeing nowadays. It's just your straightforward slasher horror graphic novel, and I think it's awesome because it's just a culmination of like the concept that this band has put together, which is something fantastic. Like I know a lot of bands such as Ice Nine gets a lot of flack for being like gimmicky and just not being about the music, but I think that it just adds so much more to their music, having this concept that goes behind it, having these characters and this storyline. I think it adds so much to the experience. I'm going to talk about that a little bit more in a little bit, but I first just wanted to talk about the graphic novel. So it's written by Steve Fox, and the artwork is done by Andreas Espinaza, and the artwork is just absolutely fantastic. One of my favorite things about this graphic novel is how much like of the like Ice Nine merch and stuff is in the background, just like the background images, and you get to see all these cool Easter eggs, not really Easter eggs, but like all this like merch that actually exists that is depicted in the graphic novel, and it just makes it so much more real. Like you feel like you are Heather, you know what I mean? If like you grew up with like band posters in your room, or even now, like I don't know if you could see my background, but clearly I have not grown up from that. The attention to detail that they put into the artwork is awesome, especially like if you're just a huge fan and you're like, oh yeah, I have that shirt or I have that poster, you know what I mean? Like there's so much that they do as far as like catering to the audience and to the fans. So yeah, the whole graphic novel is really well put together. It's illustrated beautifully, it's written well, although it's not written by the band themselves. I think they did a great job in collaboration with the writers and the artists. It's just a fun little story, and I think it's another thing that really adds to the experience of Ice Nine Kills. So it's interesting to see them come out with a graphic novel, and again, like so many bands are now coming out with graphic novels. I just sending out a newsletter that talks about all the rock and metal bands releasing graphic novels, and I think that's so interesting because, of course, I'm like a big longtime Coheed and Cambria fan. I'm just like, oh, they're just following the lead. They're can see that Coheed has been so successful with it. Of course, there's like older bands that have done it before Coheed, of course, but like I find it really fascinating that all these bands are releasing graphic novels, and I'm not really sure what the other bands that don't have concepts that go behind them are going to have in their graphic novel. I have no idea. But I think that it's a cool movement, and one of the things that Ice Nine does so well is just make the experience of them as a band so much more than just a band, and that's something that Coheed does really well as well. And a lot of my other favorite bands, like they make it's not just about listening to the album and then going about your day. It's about having an immersive experience as far as like the music tying into a storyline, tying into all these visuals and all this different merch and all these themes that they have going on. So like you just take one look at Ice Nine's like website, and it's all just so perfectly executed. Everything is on theme. Everything is like all their merch is like in evidence bags, and everything is just designed so well to make it so immersive that you're like, you are in this story, you are in the case against Spencer as a murderer. Like, you are a part of the investigation, you are a part of the psychos. They even have a mobile app that I've recently joined, like, that you can get, I don't know, it's just, they cater so much to the fans, and they really make it more than just music. I know people out there will be like complaining that like, oh well, if you have to pile all these other things on top of the music, then you're just hiding the fact that the music's not really good enough to stand on its own. I can see that argument, but I totally disagree, because for an obsessive person like me, when I like something, I really like it, and I want to dive into it, and I want to be fully immersed. I want to have merch, I want to have books and video games, not that I play them or anything, but like I want music videos, and I want everything to do with it. I want a full experience, and Ice Nine is delivering on that, and I'm seeing like a lot of other bands also having mobile apps and coming out with graphic novels, obviously, and just making it more immersive. Like, the more like stuff you can create around the lore and the world and the experience, I think just really, really adds to it. So of course, the music has to be good, first of all, and I absolutely love Welcome to Horrorwood. I think it might even be better than The Silver Scream, in my opinion. But yes, so it's about so much more than that. And like, I love this graphic novel because it kind of hits on something that is real, in that like this theme of like what would you do if like the person you idolize most, like your idol, if you're like a super fan of a band or an artist or actor or whoever, like what happens when they make a really bad decision? What if they do something absolutely like abhorrent? Like what do you do as a super fan of someone like that? Because of course that's happened multiple times in many different settings. Of course, a lot in the rock and metal industry. It's happened plenty of times where you know, a member of a band commits some egregious act, and then the fans are kind of left with wondering like, okay, well, do I still support this person, knowing what they've done? And it raises that question of like, is it right to continue to support something, even when that person or that band or whoever it is represents something that you disagree with, or something that is awful or has caused harm to people? And it really makes you question like where you draw the line morally, especially when it becomes like, especially when it's so invested in who you are as a person. Like, I know this sounds crazy to people who maybe aren't like insane, obsessive people who get really into who really get into like fandoms and stuff like that, but when you really, really like something, and when you are just a huge fan of something, it kind of becomes a little bit like of your identity. It becomes part of who you are. And so when that happens, like let's say that Spencer has actually killed someone, like let's say that the whole storyline that Einstein has created, let's say that that's true. Let's say that Spencer had murdered someone. And so it would have a huge effect on people and their fans, because it would, you know, you would have to like look within yourself and decide, you know, like, is this person, is this band so tied to who I am as a person that I'm just going to completely ignore it, pretend it didn't happen, and just, you know, do the whole like separating the art from the artist type of thing? Can you do that? Well, is it justifiable? Is it right? Is it wrong? Or do you leave that behind because that now represents something that you, something bad and something you don't agree with? Can you leave that behind? And does that feel like losing a part of yourself? And so that whole idea, that theme, is definitely present in this novel, and that's really what it's all about, is like the inability of Heather as the character to not believe that Spencer is a killer, to not be able to divest herself from Ice Nine Kills because they are such a part of her identity and who she is as a person that she can't accept it. And so that's definitely a real subject that people have had to deal with a lot, when it comes to their fandoms and stuff like that. I hope I never have to face that, as far as like if someone that I really adored and really worshipped kind of as an artist does something horrible, that I then have to ask myself, am I still going to follow this band, artist, whoever? So yeah, it's more than just like a slasher. It asks deep questions if you want to look at it that way. Of course, you don't have to. You can just experience it as like an awesome, fun, like gory slasher graphic novel. But I thought that was interesting, especially now in our day and age. It seems like it's becoming more and more prevalent that people are coming forward with all these terrible things that people have done, where in the past they've, of course, had stayed silent. So yeah, let me know what your thoughts are on that down in the comments. I don't know. I really just wanted to talk about Ice Nine Kills. I'm excited to go see them on their latest tour here in a month or two. I did see them once at Incarceration Fest last year, I want to say, and they are absolutely fantastic. I love their stage performance. I love all the costuming and the actors that they hire. It's just a fully immersive experience, and it's so much fun. If you have not been to one of their live shows, I suggest you go check it out, of course. Anyway, if you have not read Inked in Blood, I suggest you go pick one up. They are available online. I'm sure they'll probably be selling them on their tour, and I think they're also doing a Silver Scream horror convention too. I at the end of this month, I believe, which I would love to go to, but I don't think I'll be able to make it. I think it's in Massachusetts or something. Anyway, if you have read this graphic novel, please let me know your thoughts down in the comments. Also, just any random thoughts about Ice Nine, because yeah, I like to talk about my favorite bands. Let's chat about it. And also, yeah, what other graphic novels have you, like, what other graphic novels that have to do with music and bands have you guys read or thought about reading or are excited about being released? Let me know down in the comments as well, and I'll try and maybe pick one of those up and we can talk about them. Also, if you're a part of my metalhead community, I've just sent out a newsletter talking about all the graphic novels for bands that I've seen advertised that are coming out currently or in the next few months. So if you want that newsletter, if you're curious about other bands and their graphic novels, I'll go down to the link in the description and join my metalhead community. And also drop down in the comments and suggest videos that you want to see from me in the future. Anyway, thanks for watching, freaks, and until next time.